Imagine a child barefoot running through an open meadow. No fences, no noise, just wind, trees, and the soft laughter of being alive. Now imagine that same child, grown, wrapped in fine clothes, burdened by law books and ledgers, standing on a street corner asking, "What went wrong?" Welcome to Chronicles of Legends, the place where ideas meet legend. Today we wander into the forest of thought with Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the 18th century philosopher who dared to say, maybe civilization is the problem. But today we're not just talking about his politics or social contracts. No, we're peeling back the layers of Rousseau's soul to ask a more profound question. What did Rousseau believe about God? This isn't just a theological detour. Understanding Rousseau's belief in God is like finding the original sketch beneath a masterpiece. It reveals why he thought the way he did, why he challenged the Enlightenment, and why he believed that man was born free but everywhere in chains. So let's go back to the beginning. Not just to Rousseau's beginning, but to man's beginning. Rousseau believed in a good God, a benevolent creator who made nature not as a punishment or a trial, but as a gift. In Rousseau's view, natural man, that is, human beings in their original pre-civilized state, was happy, peaceful, and moral, without religion, without laws, without kings. Now, that might sound strange. Wasn't Rousseau the one who seemed skeptical of organized religion? Yes, but don't mistake skepticism of institutions for atheism. Rousseau did not reject God. In fact, God was central to Rousseau's vision, but not the God dressed up by priests and cloaked in rituals. Rousseau's God was the God of nature, the divine watchmaker, who wound up the world not to trap us, but to free us. Here's where Rousseau's vision gets both tender and terrifying. He believed that God gave man reason, not just intellect to think, but the capacity to choose. Alongside reason came free will, and that was the supreme gift, the power to choose between good and evil, between harmony and destruction. Think of it like this. Rousseau imagined God as a loving parent who doesn't force their child to behave, but teaches them right from wrong, trusting they will choose wisely. God didn't program man like a robot. He entrusted man with moral freedom. Now this free will is what allows man to either live in accordance with nature, meaning with simplicity, compassion, and humility, or to default on that choice, corrupted by pride, greed, and comparison. Sound familiar? That's because Rousseau wasn't just describing some ancient myth. He was describing us. Rousseau saw a tragedy in human history, not because of original sin, but because of original disconnection. We took the gift of reason, and instead of using it to understand nature, we used it to dominate nature and each other. We built cities, hierarchies, wealth systems. We invented property, a word that for Rousseau represented the first great lie. As he wrote in his Discourse on Inequality, the first man who claimed, "This is mine," and got others to believe him, was the real founder of civil society. And so began the fall, not the biblical one, but the philosophical one. We fell not from grace, but from simplicity. We stopped listening to the voice of nature, and by extension the voice of God. And here's the kicker. Rousseau didn't believe we were happier for it. Now let's dive into Rousseau's actual belief in God. In his book Emile, or On Education, there's a chapter called The Profession of Faith of a Savoyard Vicar. This chapter is often considered Rousseau's own spiritual manifesto, though told through the voice of a humble country priest. And in it, Rousseau lays bare his theology. He says, "I sense the hand which moves everything. I believe in a supreme being who is good, just, and all-powerful." For Rousseau, faith was a matter of the heart, not of tradition or doctrine. He distrusted the cold rationalism of the Enlightenment, which tried to explain away God. But he also distrusted organized religion, which often used fear and hierarchy to control people. So what did he propose? A kind of natural religion, a belief in a creator that is not bound by any one institution, a belief accessible to all people simply by looking inward or outward at the stars. He once said, "I cannot believe that God, who gave us reason, would punish us for using it." Think about that. This was a revolutionary idea. In an age where church and state were intertwined and theology was often used as political leverage, Rousseau's God was free, and so were we. You see, for Rousseau, conscience was sacred. It was the echo of the divine within us. While many Enlightenment thinkers believed that morality came from society or education, Rousseau said, no, morality is innate. We are born with a sense of right and wrong. And where does that come from? God. This God doesn't sit on a throne handing out commandments, nor does he strike with lightning bolts. Rousseau's God whispers. He speaks through the rustling of trees, the laughter of children, the quiet tug in your chest when you know you've done wrong. He's not the God of fire and brimstone, but of presence. So was Rousseau religious or not? This is where things get murky. Rousseau wasn't conventionally religious, no. He didn't attend church regularly. He criticized the Catholic Church and rejected certain Christian doctrines, like eternal damnation. In fact, his religious beliefs got Emile banned in France and Geneva, and he was nearly arrested. But here's the paradox. Though rejected by both religious institutions and atheistic philosophers, Rousseau believed in God more deeply than most. He believed in a God who created man to be good, a God who gave us the tools to live freely and morally, a God who mourns how far we've wandered from that path, but still offers hope that we might return. Let's go back to that image, the child in the meadow. For Rousseau, that child is us. Before we were broken, before we were taught to compare, to compete, to conquer. And that meadow, that is what Rousseau believed God intended for us. Not literal grass and trees, but a state of being. One where we live in harmony with ourselves, each other, and the world. In returning to nature, not by abandoning all progress, but by reconnecting with our innate compassion, we return to God's design. That was Rousseau's deepest belief. God made us good. It's the world that got in the way. So what did Rousseau believe about God? He believed God is good, just, and benevolent. He believed God gave us reason and free will, the ability to choose the good freely. He believed morality comes from conscience, not from fear or laws. He believed religion should be simple, heartfelt, and connected to nature, not bound by institutions. And most importantly, he believed that to rediscover our humanity, we must rediscover the God within us. Rousseau's legacy is often summed up in his political ideas, his romanticism, his influence on revolution. But here, at Chronicles of Legends, we know better. Behind the fiery words and radical thoughts was a man who spent his life searching for purity, not just in society, but in the soul. And maybe, just maybe, he found it, not in books or churches, but in the quiet moment when a man looks up at the stars and realizes he is not alone. If you found this story as stirring as we did, drop a truth in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going. Do you think Rousseau's God still speaks to us today, or have we become too distracted to hear? Like, share, and subscribe to Chronicles of Legends for more deep dives into the minds that changed our world. Until next time, stay curious, stay free, and maybe take a walk in the meadow. You never know what divine whispers you might hear.